Welcome back to Hardy's Books. We decided to go gothic and atmospheric. Ooh, I feel very spooky. My name's Laura. I'm the other half of the Hardy's Books machine. I'm the half that doesn't always wear a hat. And today we're going to be talking about why you should read the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. If you have come here looking for a nice balanced view, this ain't that, because this is probably my favourite book series of all time, and I am going to wax lyrical about why I love this series as much as I do. I will be discussing a broad outline of the plot in general. I'll be trying not to give away any major plot points, but I will be mentioning characters that don't come into the story at all or in any great depth until the Royal Assassin, the second in the series. So there will be minor spoilers throughout, but I won't give away anything too key. Anyway, let's get into it. The Farseer Trilogy begins with The Assassin's Apprentice. It's the first of the trilogy, and the Farseer Trilogy is the first trilogy of a much longer series of books known as the Realm of the Elderlings. It follows our key protagonist, Fitzchivalry Farseer, who is a royal bastard. It's an old trope. There's a reason that it's a trope. It's because it's very compelling. Fitzchivalry, we learn very early on, is the illegitimate son of the heir apparent, whose name is Chivalry Farseer. Chivalry acknowledges Fitz, which is what we know him as his son, but he doesn't name him as his heir, and he actually abdicates in disgrace as a result of him. And then very, very early on in the plot, we discover that Chivalry is killed, and his place in the line of succession goes to his brother Verity, and it would then go to their youngest brother Regal should anything happen to Verity. Completely skipping Fitz because he was illegitimate. It's a dangerous business being a royal bastard, and the king, Fitz's grandfather, knows that. It's dangerous for the established monarchy, and it's dangerous for the bastard themselves. So his grandfather decides that the best thing that he can do is use him. So he apprentices him out to his court assassin, Shade. There is an undercurrent of danger for Fitz, not just because he's a royal bastard with that precarious position of not really being a princeling, but also not really being, a normal person. He is very, very gifted in the wit, which is a practice which has been driven completely underground and is not just discouraged, but actively vilified. It's a dangerous world for Fitz, and Fitz is a character that we see grow from being a very small boy arriving at Buckkeep as a very, very small child, and we grow with him through his awkward teenage years, through the course of this trilogy, until I think it's by the end of this trilogy he's in his late teens, and he is going through all the things that you expect a teenage boy to go through, as well as being a practitioner of an outlawed magic and having that precarious position in court. That is a basic outline of who Fitzchivalry Farseer is. The vast majority of the first and second book are set in Buckkeep, which is the capital of the Six Duchies. I sometimes feel homesick for Buckkeep. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say. If you love stories where it really gets under your skin, you feel it under your nails, this is a series that you really steep in. I've heard criticism of this series that it's quite slow moving. It's not action packed. It's not on a grand epic scale. You're not spanning continents. You're not fighting dragons on day one. If that's what you're looking for, go and read some John Gwynne. Also superb. This is an extremely character-driven series. If you love stories where you know the characters inside out, you feel like you know them like they're your friends, you know them better than you know some people in your real life, their enemies are your enemies, you hate them with as much venom as you hate your own enemies, then this is the story for you. I've been reading fantasy my whole, since I could read, pretty much. And in all my years of reading fantasy, I've not found a character-driven fantasy series as well executed as this. Fitz Chivalry Farseer feels like my friend. And sometimes he does things in this series that you just want to shake him and just go, you are an idiot, what are you doing? I've mentioned in previous videos why this series is important to me, but I will go into slightly more detail in this one. Slight content warning that I'm going to talk about some fairly emotive stuff. So in 2012, my mother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and I was 20 years old at the time. Obviously, being 20 years old and your mother getting brain cancer, that is world shattering. It was at about that time that I started getting heavily back into reading. A colleague at work recommended that I read The Alchemist's Apprentice, and I was only half listening and went to my local bookshop, Waterstones, and picked up The Assassin's Apprentice instead. And it's the best mistake I ever made. This series was the escape that I needed. It allowed me to become so fully engrossed in another world and just take myself out of that horrible traumatic thing that was happening. One moment, I'm going to chuck another log on the fire. Where was I? Hopefully that will catch. So yeah, if you want to get into a world that will completely engross you, if that's your thing, as it is mine, or it certainly was at that point, I really highly recommend this book. Oh gosh, get a load of that fire. I don't know if you can quite see that. So let's talk about the magic systems in this series. There are two magic systems in this series. There's the wit and there is the skill. The wit is where the magic user creates a connection with an animal, be that a bird, be that a wolf, be that a cat. But what they tend to do is they create a connection with one particular individual animal who becomes their wit partner. Practitioners of the wit, of the old magic, are actively hunted down. Fitz, it transpires, I don't think this is a spoiler, it transpires very early on that he is very skilled at with the wit. He creates wit bonds very easily. He has a series of wit partners through this series. Ooh, can you hear the cat? What's the problem? Oh dear. The other magic in this series is the skill, which is similar to the wit. The skill is where you can create a connection with another person. So you can communicate with another person almost like telepathically, or you can influence another person's actions or thoughts with or without their knowledge. The skill, as the name implies, is very much sought after, and people who have the skill are trained up, they are held in very high esteem, put on a pedestal, and they're put into organised coteries to serve their king. It hints at the theme of connection that runs through not just this series, but throughout the entire realm of the Elderlings. Fitz is looking for a connection to his family, to his birth family, to anyone. He's a very lonely guy. He's in this really precarious position in court as someone who is royal but isn't really, is like working cloak and dagger as an assassin, doing the king's work but can't talk about it. All he wants is connection. The skill and the wit is a really good example of that. It's a very clever mechanism that Robin uses. Supporting characters, we've got Fitz, obviously, so he is our main protagonist, he is our unreliable narrator, and he is retelling his story from some point in the future, and he's kind of trying to absolve himself. That's the impression that you get from the framing narrative. He's trying to absolve himself of his sins, so you have to kind of take his retelling with a pinch of salt. And I've mentioned that sometimes he does things when you're just like, oh my god, you're such an idiot. There's definitely an element of the unreliable narrator trope, which we kind of love. I kind of love it. I love reading books where the narrator is kind of an idiot. I think we mentioned in our Empire of Silence review that Hadrian Marlowe is very much in the Fitz chivalry Farseer vein, and I totally dig it. If that's your thing, you're gonna love this. There's also Verity, who is his uncle. I don't want to spoil anything, but we love Verity. There's Lady Patience, who was Chivalry, which was his father's wife. There's Molly, and they are all really rounded, nuanced characters that you feel like you know, and you know their motivations, you know their desires, you know their fears, you know their wants, you know their needs, and you understand why they make the decisions that they do, and why they behave in the way that they do. There's not a single one-dimensional character. Even the baddies, who I won't name because I don't want to spoil this for anyone who hasn't read it. At the end, we find out why they are the way that they are, and you're like, okay, fine, that kind of makes sense. The world did you dirty. I'd probably be a bit of an arsehole too. To summarise, if you love character-driven fantasy that you can really sink your teeth into and get completely engrossed in, that maybe is set over a slightly slower pace, that isn't all gung-ho, immediately rushing into battle, where you grow with the characters and you know their needs and their wants and their loves and their desires and understand their motivations, then the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb, the first series in the realm of the Elderlings. I know I'm biased. This is not an unbiased voice speaking, but I think it's unmatched. Have you read The Realm of the Elderlings? Have you enjoyed the Farseer Trilogy? If you haven't read the Farseer Trilogy, has this video swayed you in any way, perhaps to give it a go? If you didn't like the Farseer Trilogy, why didn't you? I have heard that it's a little slow for some people. Fair enough. You're entitled to your wrong opinion. Please do give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe if you enjoy our content and would like some more of it. We do have our shop, which is hardysbooks.co.uk, where you can see not these first editions, because these are mine and they're not for sale, but we do sell some lovely first editions, signed editions, special editions, and just some lovely rare and antiquarian goodies. Find us on Instagram at Hardy's Books. You can find us on TikTok if you want, although I don't know if TikTok is long for this world. And then over to Mr. Joe Abercrombie, Lord Grimdark himself, with a very special message.
Hello, I'm Joe Abercrombie, obviously, and I would like you to subscribe to Hardy's Books immediately, if not sooner than that.